This one is going to be interesting for anyone holding XRP for sure.
I think if you want to enable an internet of value, you got to connect the repositories of value. Right. And the repositories of value, as big as the Bitcoin value proposition is today, the banks own trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars of assets. So if we want to enable an internet of value, we got to connect the banks and payment service providers and MSBs, and we're excited to have made a bunch of progress on that.
Now, what we just heard from Brad is the connection about Nostro-Vostro accounts or the banks as repositories of value, which holds trillions and trillions of dollars, and with the velocity of money that just gets multiplied. Now, what they're talking about is this connection. Say, for example, this is euro towards all the other nations, considering they have the corresponding banking network and they move the money. So this actually shows you the SWIFT network, which is a messaging platform to convey that message. But now you're entering into central bank digital currency era where you are literally not just messaging, you are doing the payment at once. So the layer of message and the settlement happens together. So that's where this really gets interesting. Now, you can argue that the SEC case is still there. So the exposure when other countries may not be great. They may say, no, we need clarity. But what's the truth? Let's just hear that directly from Brad about what those institutions are thinking right now.
Payments company, and but the employee from Team Ripple says, well, why don't you give an update on what's going on at Ripple? And I start talking about the SEC. And after the meeting, he very delicately says to me, no one gives a shit. And his point was, if you're not in the United States, the governments in Abu Dhabi, governments in Switzerland, Singapore, UK, Japan, they've provided the clarity.
Now that is what institutions on the other end of the cross-border payments think about SEC, which is not great for SEC, but it does sound great for Ripple as a company as they grow. Now inside this video, shout out to the Phoenix King. You can actually watch the entire stuff here. It actually gives you a lot of information. One of which actually goes back to the current adoption cycle, how this is growing exponentially outside US. And this one, shout out to Crypto Inside UK showing this one. The recent stuff happening in CNBC where Brad actually highlights this. He noted Romania using the XRP ledger and Ripple to test their CBDC. So we never knew about this. For me, this is new. So when I look at this, I'm like, okay, that's another country testing XRP ledger for central bank digital currency. Great. We heard about Bhutan. Now this is another one coming out. Then he gives an example of this. It's not from, pesos to dollar. It's from pesos to pound. And there's a reason for that. And that's the SEC. We know that. But by the time that ends, we are going to observe exponential stuffs happening. Now, there are things to watch. Agreed. Now, first question here would be, is this something of interest? Yes, it is. It is really interesting to watch people building things which can be useful, right? All of them are trying to go for something, build something of use case right now. So when we look at this one and go through this is all great and how that works is really good. But the real question is, do you really think the banks, financial institutions, and others are directly going to use this? It's here. We can actually see how things are going. It's developers trying to come up with something new, which is actually really good. And some of the idea conveyed here makes sense. But this exists in the market. Now we are going to break these down in an easy manner and then come back to the market to see what it's doing. Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where the normal retail guys learn how to become the next top 10% of the world. Now we are looking at just one asset where we talked about a concern before. Now we showcased about this way before. Now the only thing you need to understand is if you look at something with three-wave structure, the market cycle is more than over. So try to look through that, and if you find that, it's going to be a great opportunity. When it was here, we told, like, if you want to take profit, it's going to go higher, take that profit. It was early October, right, 2021. Then here by October 24th, we were like, okay, now the price is at 196. Consider taking profit. The risk of downside is huge. Then you got a confirmation. But by the time you get that confirmation, now it's dropped 50% already. And the confirmation is it's going to drop further. Great. Then the market gives you different ideas. All of them look same. The price is dropping. And right now, the price is still continuing to go to the downside. Now, it's not just one asset doing that. You come to this market and you see like a lot of assets are getting hit hard. I agree, that is the truth. But what we have to understand is some of these have a lot of fundamentals and a lot happening for that particular project. So if you are in that project and you believe in that project, just the price is going down, don't be scared. Look at what the developers are doing. Look at how the adoption cycle is working. If there is no news from last 6 months, 1 year, then maybe there is something wrong. But if you see last 3 months, last 6 months, they are coming up with new products, they're coming up with something new, it should not be a red flag for you, right? In the market, you can actually see different stuffs happening. Say this particular project, you can see this was the previous low, then this one, now you broke that range, which does not actually look that great. Agreed. But on a daily to weekly, you still see there is a probability that the price can retest this range. It did not retest those range yet, which actually means sellers are strong here. And then we go look at Bitcoin and we are like, okay, the Bitcoin is actually trying to go through this range. I was talking to my members earlier saying, if this breaks, that's going to be really bad. And as we observe, hackers are selling. That's another concern, and they're selling ether, right? So when we actually look at how things are evolving, nothing looks really great for the entire ecosystem. Where we look at a lot of different things, and I'm like, okay, there is a lot happening inside this ecosystem, but not everything is actually positive. So for example, when you actually look at this, first, it's like, okay, they need to get this much money. If not, Genesis is done, they're going out. And then an update comes an hour back saying, okay, they have actually kind of getting close towards 500 million. Now, they are trying to raise their funds. So they are trying to work on this one way or the other. But these kind of news is not actually great, because one of the main concern here as you go through this is like there is a lot of stuff happening. One of which is this. Say, now for me, I'm looking at Mark Cuban as an entrepreneur, billionaire who has built his life from the scratch. And, he is a great guy. The thought process is there. And when he actually does this, I'm like, okay, what's happening? That's when I literally went in and I was looking through what is happening. And as I was looking through, now it's not only these, there are a lot of other stuffs which he actually did unfollow. But I'm looking at things like, okay, which make sense to me. Say Anchor Protocol, he's no longer following that. UMA, he's no longer following that. Then he's, Polkadot, and I was surprised to see Polkadot in that list because of the fundamental, the developer activity and all of the stuff. Now, even though he's a great guy, there can be a mistake, or maybe we are on the other side. Fine. Then Solana Network, he's not doing that. Uniswap, he's now moving out. He don't want to see any update. But this is really interesting for me to actually observe that this just happened. I'm like, okay, that is great. So the ETH gate is kind of being understood by the billionaires. So what is important there is it's one billionaire agreed, but they continuously talk with their network of billionaires. And they are all investors. Great. So when there is an opportunity which is strong enough, they are going in for sure, right? And on the other side, you actually see like different countries have different issues. But right now, some of them are going ahead with crypto. Just because this FTX issue happened, not everyone is moving out. Now, yes, there are a lot of bad things evolving in this market. Say, I was looking at a pension fund who has invested in FTX. Now, think about the bad side of it. Yes, it's going to hurt a lot of normal guys just because of SEC, right? They were working with FTX and they were investigating them, and they came out like, okay, this is a good institution. There is nothing wrong. And right now, these people are losing money. There is no word for SEC to just explain like, okay, that just happened magically over the night. That's not how things work, right? It develops over time. And now going back to this one, say anyone here looking at this particular date for XRP to burst off. Now, if it happens by miracle, great. I'm happy. XRP is the single largest asset which I hold in my portfolio. So I'm like, that's great. But let's be a little bit realistic. What are they talking about? Now, this is Bank of International Settlements. So they know about this sector, cross-border payments. So if you listened to Brad Garlinghouse, what he was talking about, he is talking about payments. He is talking about cross-border payments. He is talking about connecting these repositories, meaning moving in between, reducing the friction. Now, that's where this comes in, and they talk about faster, cheaper, transparent payments. Fine. But are they looking at this thing evolving tomorrow? No, they are not, because not every country has a ready-to-go CBDC right now. Most of them are lagging. Some of them are working towards it. Some already have that. Agreed. China has it. Bahamas. And that's why when you come here, they talk, now this is directly from there, right, on developing requirements for a harmonized use of ISO 20022 message for cross-border payments. Now this is really interesting. These requirements would come into effect in 2025. Why is that? Right? That's going to come in 2025. Why is that? When SWIFT will discontinue its support of the current MT standard. Okay, so the current standard runs until that time. So the transition period is still there. There can be some institutions which jump in. Right now they are prepared, they are ready to go. But as we all know, in every industry, we have people who are so much slow in doing things. Like we all know, in every industry, there are institutions, they are really slow, or they are just delaying because they are connected with the conspiracy guys of the status quo, right? They just want to slow the things down. So the payment system operators and industry participants may share initial feedback. So we are going to get information coming to us one by one. But if they are saying 2025, usually it's going to delay. Most likely it's not going to be in 2022. We just have 1 month. So we'll have to see how things evolve. But being realistic here and taking well-educated guess would be helpful, because the market is so bad right now. There is a lot of things happening one by one, and you are looking at all this. The media is giving you the worst choice of information. You'll have to do your own due diligence before you even make any decision, right? So here we are back to looking at the charts, and this is Bitcoin, say on a 12-hour. And then we go on a 3-day and see like, okay, this is happening. Now, is there any positive news? That's what everyone wants to know, right? Because the world is not going to end tomorrow. We need to look at the positive side too. Great. Believe me, the crypto industry is going to stay here. Not all the projects are going to be here. 100%. I agree on that point. But those who survive this will be the ones with utility. Whether we agree with the utility or not, a lot of people consider Bitcoin as a store of value. But right now, if we look at what's happening, it's a cycle, right? The market goes up, the markets come back down. Now, it's that down part happening for Bitcoin. Breaking through this one is not the greatest thing to observe, and we did do that. Black swans just came like, one by one, and that's what we are looking at. Now, what's really interesting for us here as XRP investors, right now, yes, today's market actually show you like XRP is the only currency in top 10 which is holding in green, which is actually a good news. Now, if you actually remove these stable coins, then you can also add Matic to that list, which is actually a positive scenario to see like, okay, volume is going in there. It's not a bad situation. But as I shared with my members yesterday, we do see money moving in from institutions, billionaires. We discussed about that in the last video. So if you are in the market, you are looking at the reality. You are not just going for complete speculation. Yes, taking that guess is great, but it should be well educated one, right? Now we go back to these charts. We are just looking at where we think the price can actually go. So now if you are looking at the system is a little bit slow, but anyway, we are looking at this on a weekly basis. You broke below the 21-day moving average. 21-day moving average is slightly moving up. So you can take all this out and just look at this one line. You can see it's slightly moving up. So as of now, the probability of you going up is still there towards testing this resistance. So it's not negative on that macro viewpoint. But here on a daily chart, you're still following this trend line. You have not gone above or below that. You're still in that range where you're saying like, okay, the price is talking to us saying, okay, I'm going to retest this range. I'm going to test whether you guys are strong buyers. Are you going to capitulate? That's what the market is trying to actually look at. And then we have one scenario where, the odds may not be the highest, but you also get to see like, okay, this is a bottom. These are one by one where the price is making that. Is there a scenario where this can happen? We can go back up. Or the higher probability scenario, which gives, more touches in the support resistance zone, will be this one, right? You kind of get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that kind of really makes sense for traders, algorithms, investors. This is kind of one big support. Now, where does this go? That's a long way down, right? But primary question is, are you going that low? One, this is your support. If you break that, now the next support is only close to 0.29, 0.27. After that, it's a free fall towards 0.2, 0.18. Agreed. But if you're not breaking that, then you're not looking at this scenario because you have already done this consolidation inside the market and the great capitulation with the ABC pattern. And if you zoom in, you'll also see the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 capitulation structure in that impulse direction to the downside. Fine. So unless you break this one, there is no saying you're going there to that direction. Most likely what's going to happen is you're going to come and test this range. Now, this is crypto market. You may get some big company going bankrupt tomorrow. So don't go leveraged thinking, okay, this is going to skyrocket tomorrow. If one bank in one country does adopt ISO standard, it does not mean the entire ecosystem in that country is going to adopt that. Great. Does that make sense? I think yes. Great. Consider your country. If it's say Canada, you'll have different provinces, you'll have different banks. One bank doing that means, okay, most likely their branches are going to do that. Not all of them, because you will still have laggers in the market, and that's why BIS actually gives you that big time horizon 2025. But majority will be in most likely in a year. I agree. As the CBDCs are out, the rush to enter into that ecosystem will be huge. So the monstrous gain we are talking about will be coming. It's not like it's not coming. It will be coming. But may not be like, $1 trillion XRP. It can be the value of the market as $1 trillion, not one asset. Great. So guys, if you're still with me here, thank you. Hit that like and subscribe button if you are receiving value. If you still have 5 more minutes to watch, you can come here. This is my new channel. You can look at these videos, listen to that, and inform me if there is something to improve. There will be a lot of things, but I would really like to listen to you guys, from you guys, and I'll try to implement those in the upcoming videos. So that's it for today. I'll meet you guys on the next video. Bye-bye.